mind, bro. Okay.
Oh
All
man.
right, here we go. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Fresh PT podcast. We have Javier Carlin, who is a new grad PT. He graduated from FIU's PT program in Miami, Florida in July of 2017. Javi is currently undergoing a business residency at Renewal Rehab based in Tampa, Florida, and is personally mentored by Greg Todd and Mike Anastasis. He is extremely passionate about his career as a physical therapist, is heavily involved in learning the ins and outs of creating a successful business, and enjoys mentoring new grad PTs on a daily basis. Javi is opening a clinic from the ground up with Renewal Rehab in January of 2019 and is also the founder of the New Grad PT Mentors, where he helps other new grad PTs become confident clinicians, learn how they can increase their worth as PTs, and take control of their finances while avoiding burnout or needing 10 plus years of experience. Javi, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, man. It's an honor. It really is.
Dude, Javi, we've been looking to have you on for so long, man. You're absolutely killing it out there. And I think anyone who's listening to this will truly be inspired by you and all the great things you're doing. So really looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Like I said, thank you so much for having me. I've been seeing what you guys are doing with the Fresh PT podcast, and it is absolutely you guys have some really next level interviewees. So like I said, I'm really honored to be here. Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, we're having another one on right now, and yourself. So, here we go.
Season 3 All-Star.
Let's get it. Are we all season 3? We are, right?
Yeah. Andrew season 2.
I'm season 2.
Oh man.
Sorry. I'm old.
Sweet.
Oh well.
Yeah.
All right, Javi. So what got you into physical therapy in the first place?
Man. Okay. So physical therapy was not my first choice as a career. I think like a lot of people did like the pre-med route. So my intention from a young age was to go to medical school to become a doctor because that's what my parents told me I should do. That's what they wanted me to do. And I was like, you know what? I like helping people. This is something that I would probably do really well. And my academics were, on point. I was grinding. I was doing everything I had to do to get into medical school. Now, during my last year of undergrad, I was getting my bachelor's in bio. I was, taking organic chemistry. I was now getting into those anatomy classes, and I was doing all the right things to get into school. The last thing that I had to do was actually shadow some physicians. So I started looking around. To see who I can shadow, who could I observe, and I ran into 2 people: a neurosurgeon at a hospital that I shadowed for a little bit over 2 weeks, and another primary care provider, general practitioner, physician, who I also shadowed for about 2.5 weeks. Now, I was excited. I was excited to have the opportunity to see these people in action. But unfortunately, I had 2 bad experiences. So, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I understand that not everyone is like this. I know that in every profession, there's really good, professionals, there's really bad ones. But the 2 bad experiences kind of led me to where I'm at today. And honestly, I can say that I love where I'm at today. So one experience with a neurosurgeon, he did not connect with his patients. He treated them like just another body. He did not interact with them well. He was, to be honest, a total a-hole. And I was like, I don't want to become that guy. I don't want that for myself, for my career. I don't want to just, treat patients like just another person in a factory. And I was really thrown off by that, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this another shot. Again, I know not everyone is like this. So I went to go see the other physician. I was observing under him for about 2 weeks, and his was a little bit different. He was a really nice guy, but he actually told me to not join the profession. He's like, it's not what it's made out to be. The 10, 12, 15 years of schooling that you have to go to get to this point where, yes, you're making a good amount of money, but I'm still working 60, 80 hours sometimes. I don't get time with my family. I don't get time with my friends. I do, like I said, make some money and I'm able to travel, but it's, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. And I'm here like, oh shoot, like I have 1 year to graduate. I got to figure this ish out. So what happened next was, in the pursuit of trying to figure out like what direction I was going to take, because obviously that option was starting to dwindle. I talked to my friend who was actually starting nursing school the following semester, and he's like, hey, why don't you go into nursing? I'm like, honestly, I appreciate the profession. I love it. It's a really like cool profession, but it's just not for me. So he's like, all right, why don't you look into like going into PA school, physician's assistant or physical therapy school? And I'm like, well, I know what a PA does, but I don't know what a physical therapist does. So I started doing more research into it. I did more research into both of them. And then something started to tell me like, hey, as a physician's assistant, you are still under a physician. You're still working under them. And there was something about that I didn't like. I like my independence like most of us do. And as a PA, I feel that you don't have that as much as you can have it as a physical therapist. So there was that aspect to it. A little bit, just kind of like to backtrack a little bit, but my background, my family, my parents really had a business while I was growing up, and their business did really, really well. So it was something that I was always interested in. Even though, and I can go into this story later on, even though the business ended up failing and it kind of led to a lot of other things happening that again led me to this point. But I was always in the battle between like being successful and going for, a secure job, a job where I knew I would get out of at 5 or 6 p.m. and go see my family. So I was battling with those two things. And at that point, like the physical therapy profession had what I wanted, because I knew I could do other things outside of being a staff PT, where I could either, open up my own business, open up my own practice, maybe be a clinical director where I would lead and manage a team. So if I wanted that opportunity was there. And there was also a lot of security in it, because as you know, like you look up like the best, like the top 10 jobs in the country, and physical therapy is one of them, because of the amount of jobs that are out there for us, which is amazing, because now you have that security. And for me, it was partly that as well. Of course, shortly then after, I actually volunteered as a PT. I was a volunteer first at an outpatient practice, and then I was a volunteer at a hospital, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely loved it. I got hired as a PT tech a few months after being a volunteer, and that kind of solidified like the path that I was taking, and that's what got me into physical therapy.
So what was your favorite thing about PT, about being a volunteer, that really like made you go, that's what I want to do?
So before all this, I've always had like an inclination towards health, towards fitness. Personally, I just enjoy working out. I've always liked, I did mixed martial arts for some time. I was really interested in the human body. Trying to get into medical school, you kind of have to be as well. And I just was very curious about how it worked and how it functioned, that while I was there as a volunteer and as a tech, just observing what the physical therapist was doing, I'm like, man, this is really, really cool. Like the body has a natural ability to heal itself. And it can heal even faster if you facilitate the healing process. So I started seeing like what this PT was doing. And I'm like, man, this is so amazing. You're able to help people really get back to being pain-free and functional, and get back to the things that they enjoy doing without needing, medication, surgery, and anything else like that, injections, etc. And I'm like, this is freaking amazing. Like what other profession offers this? And it's really just an empowering profession where you can, empower the patients that are in front of you to just live a healthier, active lifestyle. And that's what kind of made me fall in love with it. I'm like, man, I could do this all day. So yeah.
So Javi, what are things you did as a PT student that helped shape you once you were a new grad?
All right. Okay. So I think one of the biggest things that shaped me back in PT school, it was my second year, towards the end of my second year of PT school. And again, it's interesting, in hindsight, because what I thought was an unfortunate event at the time was actually, again, what got me to where I'm at today, mindset wise. And at that time during it was my last semester of second year PT school. At that time, I started thinking more about student loans. I started thinking about my financial situation. I started having these thoughts of like, oh shoot, like I'm in a ton of debt. And I was starting to look at jobs and what the salary was looking like in Florida. And I'm like, man, there's something off here. Like what the amount of debt that we have and the amount that we're going to make, like as a doctor of physical therapy first, like out of school, it doesn't match up. And then I also kind of looked back at what had happened to my parents and like their financial situation. And I'm like, man, I don't want to fall into that trap of not having control over my finances. And what I did then was actually went to one of my classmates who is actually, his parents and his family is pretty well off. And he's really savvy when it comes to finances. So I was like, hey, listen, would you mind spending like an hour with me during lunchtime, or an hour, maybe whatever, throughout the day, to just answer a few questions that I'm having in regards to finances and investments, and just kind of preparing myself for success after I graduate. And after kind of like breaking down the numbers, how much I was going to owe depending on what plan I chose for the student loan repayment plans, after kind of figuring out like the lifestyle I wanted to live, eventually buying a home, a car, having a family, and being able to raise him and take care of him the right way, he kind of told me that I was screwed. And at the time I was really pissed off. I'm like I came to you for help, and all you have to tell me is that I'm screwed. And like, if I follow this path, like I'm not going to get all the things that I want out of life in my career. And I was like, shoot, like I have to do something about this. You have control over a lot of things that happen in your life. And that was something that I realized immediately that I had control over. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So after that conversation, it really got me thinking, and I started searching for answers. So I started searching for those answers, and a lot of the people that I was surrounding myself with in my class, they didn't really, have those feelings just yet. They were more focused on school, which is great, but I was already thinking ahead. And since they didn't have the answers that I was looking for, I started going out to conferences. I started networking. I started just learning things outside of traditional schooling that started opening my eyes. I started listening to a lot of podcasts. I think one of the first ones I started listening to was The Hunt for Greatness by Greg Todd. I started listening to Paul Goff's podcast, the Business Growth School podcast, I think it's called. I started doing all these things, and all these things that I wasn't exposed to before started to really expand like the way that I was thinking about the profession and what we're actually able to do in it. So I essentially started to surround myself around people who were thinking a lot different than what my classmates were thinking, than what my professors were thinking. And I quickly realized that to get the things that I wanted out of my life, I had to kind of take a different path than everyone else was taking. So that's basically what set me up for everything that I'm doing a year out of PT school at this very moment. The profession is an amazing profession, and you can succeed and you can win and you can have a successful career and fulfilling life, but you have to do things a little bit differently than we're taught in school, a little bit differently than that has been done in the past. And unfortunately, the system in a lot of these private practices, a system that is currently kind of constraining us, that was built around these insurance companies, makes it harder for us to do that, but it is possible, and there is a way to do it. And number one, it starts with just surrounding yourself around people who are doing it and who are just thinking differently than everyone else.
Dude, I think that's really important to what you said earlier about for PT students or new grads to look at the situation you're in PT school, or even as a new grad, thinking about like kind of looking ahead like you did. Because a lot of PT students don't realize that, when you come out of school, how much debt you're going to have, especially if you're at a private institution or out of state, like I was there. Like the student loans are so much debt to take in, and you're not really going to make that much after school to start off. So yeah, I think a lot of new PT students need to start looking into that more, kind of in that second year of PT school, kind of like you did. So great advice.
Yeah. And I think a part of it too is when we're talking about student loans and finances is there's multiple ways of looking at it. Obviously, that's something that you eventually want to pay off. And I had this conversation with Joe Ranke from FitBooks today. And that's someone that I'm actually going to be closely working with in the future. But I had a conversation with him today, and it's basically figuring out like what your goals are. Because the way I look at student loans and finances, I have a lot of things that I want to accomplish, a lot of things that I want to achieve throughout the next couple of years. And those things that I'm trying to achieve require me to, put some financial investment into. So for me, my mindset is, instead of trying to figure out how I'm going to pay off my student loans right now, I'm going to figure out how to make as much money as possible by serving as many people as possible, so that doesn't even become a worry of mine. Because if you focus on that aspect of it and learn the skills that you need to make that happen, then everything else takes care of itself. So that's one of like the mindset shifts that I had in the past, year and a half, 2 years, that I honestly received from all these people that I was telling you about. But yeah.
Javi, can you just say that again? I thought that was awesome.
Which part?
About like, you didn't focus on paying down the debt. You focused on,
right.
Like how to improve your situation.
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of us are focused on like how much debt we have. We're always worried about what can go wrong, the fears that we have that things, might not work out, the fear of failure with everything. But if we shift our focus from a negative one to a positive one and figure out like, okay, what do I actually have control over? Because like I said before, we have a lot more control than we think. We just have to be willing to put in the work in the direction that will get us to what we want. Now, the shift in focus that I had was, okay, I can focus on how am I going to pay down these loans, or I can focus on serving more people, impacting the lives of many, and in the process, making a lot more money, where worrying about student loans, that doesn't even come up with like in my head anymore. And when you live in that world, when you live in a world that you can control, or at least make the right decisions to get you to that point quicker, then that's a much better place to live in. And just shifting that focus of control to something that, people are doing to you, to things that you can do for yourself. I think that's where the magic happens.
That's great. And one of those things you're doing to serve others, you're in the process of starting up a clinic.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what that looks like.
All right. So this is okay. I got excited about this stuff. So let me see how I can narrow it down.
Dude, take as long as you want, man. Take as long as you want.
Be very excited.
All right, cool. So just to start off, a little business lesson. There are 4 legs to any business. And the 4 legs to any successful business, because there are a lot of businesses that are open, but they're not successful, is sales, marketing, operations, and finances. So for any business to succeed, you have to make sure that those 4 things are taken care of. Now, inside those legs, inside those branches, there are 2 primary skills that every single person in that business is going to be proficient in. So those 2 skills, and I like to say 3, but I'll go ahead and tell you the 3 that I think are acquisition, the process of acquiring customers, converting. So actually now like figuring out, okay, I got the customers now. How do I make them a client for life? And number 3 is retainment. So they've gone through the initial eval. Maybe they came for their first 2 sessions. How do I make sure that for that patient to get 100% better, how do I make sure that they continue with their plan of care and don't drop off? And that's the retainment aspect of it. So there are those 4 legs and those 3 main skills. In the past 6 months, what I've been learning, where most people, so a physical therapist and the front desk falls into the operations aspect of a business. And most business owners just focus on that and hope that everything else will take care of itself. But if you're not planning for success, you're setting yourself up for failure. So what you need to start thinking about, or what we have started thinking about, is how to make sure that everything else is working properly before that clinic even opens up. So for the past 6 months, I've been learning about all these different systems, like I said, sales, marketing, operations, and finances, and what needs to happen to set ourselves up so that when that clinic does open up in January, we are at a much better place than if we just started doing everything from that point forward. So obviously there's a lot that's going to happen in those first few months, and we can't, everything is not going to be perfect, but now we're planning for success. And when you plan, I mean, having a plan is always going to be better than not, right? So those are the things that I've been working on. Initially, as a solopreneur, you are wearing many hats and you have to do all of them, but you have to think about how that 3, 5, 10-year plan is going to look like, and who you can put into those roles that are going to help like create a successful business for you. And that's obviously leveraging your assets, which one of those assets are people. And when you start thinking that way, you are more likely to have a successful business. Now, back to your question of what it looks like. It looks like learning all of that. It looks like figuring out, marketing, cool. Like, what is marketing about? Marketing is about getting the message out to the right people, the people that you want to work with, and trying to figure out what their internal struggles are, what they're dealing with on a daily basis, their pains and frustrations, and coming up with a solution to solve that, presenting it in a way where they feel like you are the expert and you can really take care of them, and ultimately figuring out different platforms where you can reach out to those people and bring them to your clinic. So that's one aspect of it. So what that looks like is us creating Facebook advertisements, working on Google AdWords, starting all these different social media accounts, and just putting out content, putting out information that would help people, creating free products, free ebooks, just providing as much value as we can to the local community so that, again, people start knowing who Renewal Rehab is and that we're actually opening up a location in that area. So that's a part of, there's a lot more that goes into marketing, but that's kind of just like what we're working on and what the general, concept is. Everything else we've been working on as well, but the number one thing that we are focusing on is, like I said, acquiring customers, patients, because if you don't have that, you don't have a business. So that's what we've been focusing on in the past 2 months, is figuring out how to get those people to come in, hopefully from day one. Obviously, like I said, it's you do the best you can and hope for the best, but if everything is running smoothly, now you have a way to predict how many people are going to be coming in. So what we're doing now is actually implementing those systems in the clinic that we're at now, figuring out what the lag time is between the time we put out an ad, the leads that we get, and the time that they come in for a discovery visit, which is like a free consult. So that's where we're at now. The next big thing that we're working on is building relationships with businesses, with providers, and going to community events in the local area. So obviously the clinic hasn't been established there. No one knows who we are. So we have to go in there with the intention of meeting people, interacting with people, and just building relationships with every single person that we find, whether it's at a Walmart, in a grocery store, at an Orange Theory Fitness, chiropractic office, every single person we need to build a relationship with. And that ultimately gets you more known in the area, it gets you to, just, I think there's a part that people are scared of, like, of putting themselves out there and talking to other businesses because they think of them as competition. That's so far from the truth. When you have the mindset of like, hey, listen, like, I can help you out, and you can potentially help me out without even thinking about it that way. Just say, hey, I'm going to help you in whatever way I can to promote your business. A lot of good things happen that way. So that's one of the other things that we're focusing on right now. It's just building those relationships. So we're actually going to a community event this Saturday where we're going to, it's called the Girls on the Run event, where we're, setting up a tent. We have a lot of good relationships with the director of the event. So we're doing that, out a lot of community, like outreach events, doing those types of things. And it's been a lot of fun. It's a grind. It really is, but it's been a really great time. And I love connecting with people, and to be able to do that and know that we'll eventually be taking care of that local community in the best way that we know how. It's really motivating, and it just kind of gets me going every morning.
Javi.
Yeah.
We all know this, listening to a podcast is free, but Matt and Javi, I feel like we should be charging to people listening to this shit. I mean, that is such good advice for anyone who is thinking about opening up a business or doing it.
Like it sounds like you're leaving like no stone unturned. Like, are you sure you're a new grad?
Man, I know I was all over the place too, because the thing is that I get excited and I just want to, like, everything that's running through my mind, I just want to put it out there. So if that didn't flow, or if you have any questions about that, reach out to me, because I know I kind of just threw like a lot of stuff. But yeah, it just excites me so much that yeah. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Dude, we all love that. That was awesome, man. So good.
Oh man, thanks, guys.
So in addition, not only are you a new grad PT and you're opening up your own clinic, you've also created a community for new grads. Tell us more about that and your mission and how like new grads can benefit from that.
Yeah. So in the past year, again, like surrounding myself with, like-minded individuals like yourselves, I joined this community of physical therapists. Obviously, we're a part of it, Smart Success PTs, with Greg Todd. So I joined that community. I got a lot more than I was expecting out of it. And in the process, like it's almost been 2 years since season 3, which is kind of crazy to think about. But in the past 2 years, like I've learned things at an accelerated level, I would say, by, attending these conferences, attending these events, going to masterminds with Paul Goff as well. I'm starting Greg Todd's now in January. But I've put myself in a position where I'm learning things at a very high level. And I started that from even before, graduating PT school. So a lot of the things that I feel I know that I've learned from these people that I just mentioned, I know that there are a lot more people out there, a lot more PT students or soon to be new grad PTs and new grad PTs who are unaware of what else is out there, the world that we're in. And if I can be another voice to those new grad PTs to really just show them like what is possible in the PT profession, I think with that, like, even if I impact just one person a day, one person a month, hell, one person a year, that makes me very excited. So because of the things that I've been learning in the past couple of years, and because I know what it takes to again, like live a fulfilling life and really be happy with the profession and the career, because there's a lot of talk about burnout and all these things, and I think we'll get to that topic shortly. But the things that I've learned, I want to go ahead and share them out with the world. So the platform that I created was the New Grad PT Mentors, and we have a community called the New Grad PT Mentorship Group on Facebook. And it was created really to help new grads like us with the main things that we all struggle with. So I polled hundreds of new grad PTs, and their top frustrations were student loans and finances, which is, again, like a no-brainer. A lot of the things that we struggle with out of school is like, I don't know enough, I know I went through 3 years of PT school, but I still feel like I know nothing. How do I build trust with the person that I'm interacting with that patient that I'm seeing at the initial eval? How do I really just gain confidence as a clinician, right? That's something that we all struggle with. And I struggled with until like 6 months ago, when I actually learned how to communicate effectively with a patient and figured out what really mattered to them. When you remove yourself from let's say, for example, from a patient evaluation, and think about, oh, look, like, what is this person going to think about me? Like, am I going to do all the right tests? Am I going to like mess up here? Am I going to mess up there? When you remove that and just focus on the person that you have in front of you and just take care of them as a human being, like, all those worries disappear. And it's that simple, but there are a lot of strategies that you can learn to make that easier for you to become more confident as a clinician. So that's another thing that we help out with. One of the main things that we learned from Greg Todd is how to become more valuable and increase your worth as PTs. To do that, you have to learn certain skills outside of what PT school taught us. We learn clinical skills in PT school, but there are other skills outside of that we call high dollar skills that will actually allow you to increase your worth and value as a PT. So that's another thing that I like to talk about and teach. And then finding the dream job, and I'm putting quotation marks because what is a dream job? For everyone, that's different, very different. But how do you find it? How do you ask the right questions to the right people to figure out what that dream job is, and if someone has that for you? Maybe it's not something that's already set up for you. Maybe it's something that you have to create, right? So that can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but just figuring out what that is and helping people take the necessary action to move forward with it. And like I said, I've learned this. This is not stuff that I just came up with. I've learned it from like the top in the physical therapy, the top people in the physical therapy profession. And I've also been highly invested in like people like Tony Robbins, Brendon Burchard, and just gaining their perspective on life and building relationships and implementing it into everything that I'm putting out today. And the mission is really, to help new grad PTs become aware of what they need to begin to start thinking about now as a new grad physical therapist, and to go about taking the necessary action steps that they need to take so that they don't feel burnout a few months or a few years right out of school. It's just crazy to me that that's happening, but I understand it because in my first job, although I loved it, and I love the environment, I was still feeling burned out after about like 5 months, which is nuts, but I know it's real, but we shouldn't be feeling that way. And I think another thing is challenging, really what my mentors have done for me is challenging old belief systems about how the PT profession should be or should be done, and just bring solutions to new grad physical therapists' attention so that they can make better decisions about their careers and their life. If that's what I can provide for someone, like, I think that would be extremely beneficial, because I wish I would have had that, and I did, but a lot of people don't. So like I said, if I'm just another voice, preaching these things, and I can help maybe one more person that maybe a Greg Todd or Paul Goff couldn't reach, then I think I've done a good job, and I'm very motivated, very inspired on a daily basis to make that happen. So essentially, yes, that's what that's what I'm working on the side, apart from opening up the clinic, and it fires me up every single day.
Hey, do you mind mentioning the name of that Facebook group? Because that's an amazing group, and I think a lot of people could benefit from that. Go ahead and say that again.
Yeah, of course. It's called New Grad PT Mentorship. It's on Facebook, and I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is from having that group is that it's not easy. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of it's interesting because some groups that are actually more, that are more about like negative self-talk or bashing each other and all these things have blown up. And a group like this, where it's more positive, like, hey, listen, you have control over everything, that a lot of the things that happen in your life, or at least how you feel about those things and what you do about them. These are things that a lot of people don't even think is possible. So the engagement that I'm trying to get out of the group, I'm trying to get that to kind of blow up, and it's a work in progress. But if you're interested in joining, go ahead and join the group. I'll go ahead and accept you, approve you into the group, but just make sure you engage. Ask a ton of questions. I love questions. I tell my patients all the time, like, you should never leave the clinic with a question. If you have a question, like, get it out. Ask myself, ask Joseph, ask any of the staff. I don't want you to feel like you're left without understanding something. And especially if I have the answer to it, there's no reason that should happen. So the same thing with the group, like, ask questions, because that's what I'm here for. That's what you guys are there for. Like, if you guys ever want to post something, if you guys ever want to ask a question in the group as well, like, go for it. If you want to answer questions, go for it, because you guys are freaking killing it too. So I'd be happy to have you guys like help out with that. But yeah, that's what the group name is. It's a New Grad PT Mentorship.
Javi, I feel like you've given so much this episode, man. We're so thankful. But are there any more tips that you have for new grads who feel burnt out, or they feel like they have no direction in their career?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about a few reasons for burnout, and then I'll go ahead and give some tips to prevent it. And the main reasons that I actually wrote these down because I really wanted to think about the things that I struggle with, the things that I hear my peers struggling with, the things that people have told me have led to their burnout. But ultimately, it's figuring out, okay, what is the surface level thing, the surface level reason that people are saying, and what's actually happening. So I narrowed it down. I mean, I can narrow it down to like 2 or 3 big ones, but I'm going to go ahead and let you know all of them. For me, burnout is a lack of control, feeling like you don't have control over your life, over your career, over what's going on in the clinic. No opportunities for growth where you're currently at, feeling like you're stuck, a lack of a winning environment, like the environment that you're in is a massive part of it. And that doesn't have to be in person. It could also be online. A poor system. So inefficiency meaning you're working under a system that does not allow you to win, that does not allow your patients to win, that you feel there's a disconnect with how things should be done and how they're actually done. That can lead to burnout. There's also boredom. So you can just be bored out of your mind because you're not stimulating yourself with new ideas, new information. You're not, practicing new skills, whatever that may look like. So my tips for combating burnout are, number one, surrounding yourself around the right people, creating your own winning environment. So again, that doesn't have to be in person. If all your coworkers suck and maybe your friends, are, into like the negative self-talk and are just bringing you down, create your own environment. What can that look like? It looks like having people like Matt, like Andrew, like myself, people online that can help you through the process and mentor you through the process. It looks like joining a community of physical therapists online, whether it's Smart Success PTs, whether it's any other group that is really just encouraging you guys and teaching you new skills to allow you to grow. Your input becomes your output. So anything that's surrounding you and all that you're hearing on a daily basis determines what you put out into the world. So if people are bringing you down, make sure you remove those people from your life. That doesn't mean eliminate them completely, but it means stop listening to them. So that's number one. That's tip number one. Number two is, if you're stuck and you're bored, it's because after PT school, you had no goals. You had no idea of how you were going to stimulate your mind to learn and to continue to grow personally and professionally. You have to keep on investing yourself in non-traditional education after schooling with things that will actually get you what you want. So that's part of number three. But that's the key is setting a curriculum for yourself that allows you to grow personally and professionally. And I hate when people say, oh, personal development, like it's full of crap, like it's just, all this positive hoorah stuff. Like, no, you need that. Just like you have professional development, you need personal development. There are a lot of things in your life that you might not like, and a lot of that goes back to your communication with yourself and your communication with others. So there's a good quote, you get what you tolerate, and that's with life, that's with your relationships, that's with everything. And once you figure that out, and once you decide, okay, I need to better myself as a person, a lot of things start going the right way. Number three, the last tip is, and this is for someone who doesn't have any direction, and having no direction is it's a feeling of a lack of control with where you're going and what you want to do. So number one is sit down and think. No one thinks nowadays. Sit down and think, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever you need, sit down and think about, number one, what you want your life to look like. Not what you want your career to look like, what you want your life to look like. What do you want? What lifestyle do you want to live? Do you want more time freedom? Do you want to spend more time with your family later on in the future? What is it? You have to figure out what that is before anything else. Number two is think about why you want it. So purpose, right? You need to figure out what the reason behind that want is, because purpose drives action. So when you have that purpose, you're pulled in that direction, and it doesn't feel like you're struggling to get things done. You're actually excited to get things up. You're fired up to get things done, like I am on a daily basis. Like, yeah, I have, days where I'm not that fired up, but I know that the following day, like, all right, this was a minor setback. Today I'm going to get back on that train. I'm going to crush it. So that's number two. Figure out the purpose, the reason why you want that thing. Number three is, how are you going to get there? So figure out how you can get to that point, because yeah, it's nice knowing what you want and having a reason why, but if you don't have like a plan of action to actually get there, if you don't know that how, then you're not going to get anywhere. So that's number three. And a part of that is taking the action. So taking massive action towards that thing that you want. So figuring out how you're going to do it and then doing it. And number four is stepping back and realizing that you don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. No one has all the answers. And if there's something that you want, but it seems so far away and you're not sure how you're going to get it, figure out who can help you get it faster. For me, it's always been about how can I get to that point a lot quicker than they did. And for me, time is much more valuable than money is, because time is something that you'll never get back, right? Money, it's actually not that hard to acquire once you figure out certain skills and you figure out how to do it and put yourself in the right position by learning the skills. But time is something that you'll never get back. So for me, in my head, I'm like, all right, so I can spend the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years trying to figure this ish out on my own and waste a shitload of time, or I can just pay someone to help me through it. I can pay someone to fast track me the way to success. Figure out what your point A is, where you're at, and where you want to get to, what your point B is, and find someone who has that point B. And if it requires you to pay them some money to give you the answers, go for it. If it's someone that's willing to mentor you for free, awesome. But figure that out and find help, because no one can go at it alone. And when you figure that out, you're setting yourself up for a lot of great things.
Dude, I think you just dropped so much fire there that you set that car alarm off. I'm not sure if you heard that car alarm. Did you?
Are we talking to Tony Robbins himself?
Oh man,
I
hope that's not my car they're breaking into.
Yeah, hopefully not, man.
Well, I do. It's all about seeing the opportunity. So I actually been wanting a new car for a very long time. I don't need one. So where some people see, oh shit, they stole my car, I'm like, yo, opportunity, let's get it.
All right, it's getting weird. Oh man.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No, dude, that's hilarious, man. So you've already dropped so much knowledge. Where can the people find you and get in touch with you, man?
So I hope I'm everywhere. I'm trying to be. So, people can find me on Facebook. You can friend me, Javier Alexander Carlin. The New Grad PT Mentors business page. We have, like I said before, the group, New Grad PT Mentorship on Facebook as well. Instagram at the New Grad PT Mentors. We're now starting to get more active on YouTube. I have a team that's creating YouTube videos for us. And I also have a team that's helping me with a podcast. So the podcast is just out. It's called the New Grad Physical Therapist Success Blueprint. And you guys will want to check that out, because I will have 2 next level people on there. Their names are ATK, Andrew Nieberg, and Matt Hodgins. So we got to set that up. So yeah, I think that's everything. I don't know where else I could be right now, but that's it, guys.
You name the time and date, man.
Let's get it. Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Javi, thank you so much for coming on the Fresh PT podcast. We really enjoyed talking with you, man.
No,
this was amazing, bro. Thank you so much for all the knowledge. That was incredible.
Yeah, no, anything I can do, man. I'm just trying to share everything that I've learned in the past couple of years. And like I said in the beginning, it really is an honor to have you guys interview me on this podcast. It's a lot of the times we feel like we're not in a position to, spread the things that we know out, and being able to do this for your audience it's really amazing. So again, thank you. I appreciate it.